Even during the design stage, the creators of the German Panther tank envisioned it as a platform for a wide range of vehicles, including artillery units and tank destroyers. With the failure of the German blitzkrieg in the Soviet Union, Germany was forced to adapt to more self-propelled guns of various types. SPGs were cheaper and easier to produce than tanks, but they proved to be just as effective in combat, especially those based on tried and tested platforms like the Sturmgeschütz 3. Another important factor was that the Allies had ramped up mass production of T-34s, Matildas, and Shermans, all of which were well protected against the standard armaments available to German forces. To counter those threats, the military wanted a self-propelled gun equipped with a long-barreled 88mm cannon. One such vehicle, the Ferdinand, appeared on the battlefield in as early as 1943. However, the SPG, based on the chassis of the experimental Porsche Tiger, turned out to be expensive, complex, unreliable, and could only be produced in limited numbers. In other words, it was the opposite of a good self-propelled gun. That clearly wasn't the mass-produced solution that Germans were looking for. This is where the creators of the Panther stepped in. They decided to mount an 88mm gun onto the chassis of the tank that they were working on. The front glacis plate was replaced with a larger structure featuring a cutout for the gun mantlet. In this configuration, the gun had a horizontal traverse of 11 degrees to each side. The gunner's periscope was installed under the roof, and the side armor was increased to 50mm. Initially, the gun was intended to be easily removable, but in the final version, it was rigidly fixed in place. The earliest work on the Jagdpanther project dates back to 1942, but full-scale production didn't begin until 1944. First, the Panther itself had to be refined. Then the military prioritized other vehicles, pushing the Jagdpanther into the background. In early 1944, small batch production began, and only by the end of the year, when 2 more manufacturers joined the effort, did the self-propelled gun start reaching mass production levels. Despite the delay, the Jagdpanther more than justified its development. During the Normandy landings and the Ardennes offensive, its crews knocked out dozens of Shermans. For a vehicle built in relatively small numbers, the Jagdpanther proved to be highly effective. Its 88mm gun could easily penetrate most Allied armored vehicles, including Soviet T-34s and American Shermans. Heavier, more fortified targets, like the IS series tanks, jumbo Shermans, and the new Pershings, were more challenging but still within the capabilities of this SPG. The well-designed interior allowed for a high rate of fire, the powerful engine gave the vehicle good mobility, and its armor remained relevant even in 1945. The Jagdpanther turned out to be an excellent example of German armored engineering, but it couldn't turn the tide of the war. Germany's industry, ravaged by Allied bombings, could no longer produce these vehicles by the thousands, or even by the hundreds, and defeat on the front lines became inevitable. After the war, most Jagdpanthers ended up on firing ranges, in scrapyards, or in museums. Nonetheless, they inspired many foreign designers. The Soviet Su-122-54, the French Foch, and several other Cold War-era prototypes bore clear influence from this German design. Like many World War II-era vehicles, the Jagdpanther is also featured in War Thunder. The famous German tank destroyer sits at rank 4 of the German tech tree, and is available in 2 versions, the production model G1 and a premium commander variant. Aside from minor visual differences, both versions share the same performance characteristics. Both are exemplary tank destroyers, fast, well-armored, and heavily armed. Its armor protects the vehicle from 85mm and 90mm APC-BC shells, namely the American M82 shell fired by 90mm cannons and the Soviet BR-367 fired by 85mm guns. However, solid-shot rounds fired by French and British guns pose a much greater threat. The most dangerous projectiles are powerful high explosives, like the Soviet 122mm BR-471, as well as heat and sabot rounds. A direct hit with those can disable key modules and knock out multiple crew members. One of the Jagdpanther's key advantages is its speed. It can reach 46 kilometers an hour and accelerates fairly quickly. However, its reverse speed, limited to just 4 kilometers an hour, makes retreating rather difficult. Since the vehicle lacks strong side armor and a turret, its speed is best used to reach concealed positions where you'd be able to engage enemies at medium to long range. If things go south, it's wise to deploy a smoke screen in front of the vehicle. Sometimes it's also useful to fire smoke rounds while advancing to block potential fire from enemies behind your back during a flanking maneuver. The 88mm gun can penetrate and destroy most enemies with a single shot. There are a few exceptions, of course. For instance, when engaging the Soviet IS-3, you should first disable its gun and then hit it through the driver's hatch beneath the turret. And American T-32s should be shot through the MG part. The vehicle's limited gun traverse and noticeable recoil discourage aggressive tactics. Instead, the vehicle's mobility and easy-to-use gun make it ideal for sniper-style engagements. With its set of strengths and weaknesses, the Jagdpanther performs best as an ambush vehicle, though it's also capable of facing some opponents head-on. It's most effective when covering a crossing or a street while having a pre-planned escape route. The key is to stay calm and methodical and not to overestimate your speed or armor. It's solid, but far from invulnerable. The earliest production Jagdpanthers carried the cumbersome designation 8,8 cm Bach 43-3 auf Fahrgestell Panther. It wasn't until several months into production that the vehicle received its now iconic name. What can we say? The self-propelled gun did live up to that name, both in real life and in War Thunder, and became one of the finest vehicles of its class. Do you enjoy fighting in the Jagdpanther? Share your experience in the comments down below.